VIPs. My guest today is a fascinating man with some amazing stories about his time in the NHL and around the city of Barrie. Let's get to know Ron Hoggarth. So I'm standing at the Elmville Rec Center, and I've been trying to line up this interview for a while. This guy's a Barrie legend. I finally get to stand here and interview Ron Hoggarth. Ron, welcome to Kevin Richards VIPs. So great to have you here. I'm going to try and talk somewhat during this next 28 minutes because I know you're not shy with a camera. So, Ron, welcome to the show. Where did you grow up? You grew up in the Barrie area.
I grew up in Ivy, which is just a little bit outside of Barrie. Used to hitchhike to school all the time, you know, playing high school football.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to drive by Tangle Creek, the golf course, on the bus. It's just open fields, and you know, now it's this beautiful golf course.
It owes me some balls.
Oh,
yeah.
And now all the community here. So I went to school, high school here, you know, grew up in Ivy, and I went to high school at Central, you know,
Yep.
when I was on the Wall of Fame there. That's gone. I'm on the Wall of Fame here. It's still here. So but Barrie's been a great town. You know, standing here, this is kind of fun because we had Barrie Summer Hockey School back in the early 80s. Terry Martin from the Maple Leafs, Glenn Richardson, the local guy, and Jimmy Hamilton and his mom. So this is kind of fun coming back and then playing Monday night hockey, you know, when I retired back here. So this is kind of like being at home. It's great.
Well, it's nice to be able to get a chance to talk to you because you do spend a lot of your summer doing a ton of charity work, right? You are in how many golf tournaments a year do you think throughout the summer?
Well, probably 20, 25, you know, which is a lot, but I'm on the board with the Easter Seals. I try and help them as much as possible. You know what, and it's a cliche, you know, you got to give back to your community, but there's no doubt this community has been very good to me. I want to give back. The Rotary, you know, anytime the Rotary calls, you know, they need something, I can help them out, all three clubs.
Yeah.
So you kind of, it gets to a point where the very difficult part of doing that and keeping your face out there is saying no. And I hate saying no, but sometimes, you know, you have to have a life. And
well, you've entertained the city of Barrie for so long too, right? And that's such a key for you and your career and your success. We've been able to go to charity events, and you know, not too many referees can scoot around like, you know, with a microphone and be able to commentate and make it fun, right? And you've done that, so we appreciate that.
Oh no, I love it. You know, it's been great. But I do have to tell you a story. I was in a grocery store not that long ago, and a gentleman came up to me and he says, "Didn't you used to be Ron Hoggarth?" So, you know, that's kind of, yes, I guess I was at one time Ron Hoggarth. But, you know, I've kept myself in the community. The other thing, too, was when I refereed in the National Hockey League, I didn't wear a helmet. And it was Saturday night, you know, and Joe Bowen, the voice of the Leafs, he used to get all kinds of free chlorine for his pool. So there's Hoggarth, the pool magnet. And
well, let's go to that too in a minute, but I want to unpack a little bit more about you growing up. So what was it like for you at Central? Where did you find this time that you suddenly wanted to be a referee, or where did that head?
Well, I was an athlete. I played on the junior, at that time it was Junior C Hockey Club here. I got drafted by the Kitchener Rangers. My uncle was a dean of students at Queen's University, and he said, if you want to go to university, this is back in the 60s, there's not much sense in going to the States and getting a degree and coming back. You want to stay in Canada. Sure. So I stayed here, played hockey. In grade 11, I broke my arm really, really badly playing high school football. I played for the Ivy Leafs. I got drafted by Philadelphia Phillies as a pitcher.
Wow.
You know, so I was a
you're an all-around sports guy.
Well, I was a big, strong farm boy. That's what I was. But broke and that really changed my life, breaking my arm, because I was able to come back and play hockey, but you know, not the same thing. And I played on the fastball teams. We won the All-Ontario fastball after that, but it really wasn't the same. My arm wasn't the same afterwards. Then I decided to go to. I had a scholarship at Cornell.
Oh wow!
Partial scholarship, but Dad went down. But you know, a farm boy, it was still expensive to go, and so I stayed in Canada. I got married at the time, had a child, and I was, you know, poor, starving student. Wow. So I started to referee in Hamilton when I was going to McMaster.
So were you doing OHL?
Oh, I did everything. I did OHL. I did men's hockey. I did high school hockey. I did broomball, DeFasco broomball, anything at all. So I graduated from McMaster University with no student loans. So that was a big advantage.
Broomball's an ugly sport.
Oh, it's just don't scuff up the ice is all you do.
Yeah, and the rubber boots.
But then being in Hamilton, a lot of the referees would pick me up. So I worked the Hamilton Red Wings. I don't know if people remember, on Tuesday nights, Hamilton used to broadcast the Hamilton Red Wing games, OHL. They were well, it was a junior A league at that time.
That's the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And no, 60s.
Oh, really? That far back?
That
Okay.
far back in the 60s. So I got scouted
Yeah.
at university, and then the last year they had a training camp for referees. You know, so they scout the referees exactly the same as the players do. I was a big, strong guy, I could skate.
Sure.
And so we went to training camp. There were 60 of us from all over North America.
Sure.
And 6 of us got hired that year. So Andy Van Helm and Ray Scampano there in the Hall of Fame. Scampy. So that was quite a cruise, 71.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I involved into refereeing. It was just not a freak, but I needed to work some extra money. It was a great way to stay in hockey. The other thing too, that I had a chance to go with the Rangers and out of junior and carry on, but they weren't making a whole lot of money at that time. In the Central Hockey, the American Hockey League, you were making $300 a week, which wasn't bad at that time, but it wasn't a future.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I decided, got a career started in 1971.
Yeah, 71. So you get your call to the NHL, right? And what was your first game? How were you feeling?
Nervous.
I'll bet.
Very, very, very nervous. My first game was what we did the first year, and this was being in the as a referee in the National Hockey League. You start in the minors, so this is the Central League and American League, and that was a real training program. I spent almost 7 years. So you would work the first year, work 5 NHL games, and you work 15, work 25. So by the time you got there, you had all the experiences. And the referee Scotty Morrison says, "I'm going to start you out as a linesman."
Yeah.
And he says, but he handed me a bag of marbles with my first contract, and he said, here's a bag of marbles. Every time you make a mistake, send one into the office. And I said, sure. I said, well, what happens when I lose all my marbles? He says, now you're an NHL referee.
That's a great story.
So we go back. It was all the training program. It's different today. But when I worked into the National Hockey League at full time, I had all the experience in the world.
Yeah, so you had the confidence to be able to go out there and not be concerned. Did you get a lot of slack? Like when you first get in there, I know these NHL guys back then, you've got some tough guys back then, the old Philadelphia Flyers, Well,
that's what I was going to say. A great story is that the Philadelphia Flyers were not as tough as their American League team. It was the Richmond Robins at the time.
Oh, really?
They had a tougher team in the American League.
Tougher.
And so we would work the American League, one night, and then go to the National League the next night. In Richmond, I had the Detroit Red Wings versus the Philadelphia Farm team. I had 5 bench emptings. Completely everybody's on the ice fighting.
No helmets, ready to go.
5 times.
Wow.
The next night, I go into Philadelphia. The Broad Street Bullies, the tough. We got one bench emptying. And in like 3 minutes, I got all the penalties straightened away. And I still remember to this day, the timekeeper says, how'd you do that? I says, practice. So, but it was a great experience. I mean, I came through all the time, came through the Broad Street Bullies, came through all the European hockey players coming in, the commies, all that dirty language. There was a tough time.
Lot of real, you know what, and there's some late night NHL commentators that have no problem slinging it about how they truly feel about anybody who's not a Canadian player.
Oh, absolutely.
And as fair and unfair as it is, we like to keep things Canadian, and we're very Canadian proud, and we love that. But I think we embrace some of those players, especially when the Sundin era, when he came in, he changed a lot of things for Toronto fans.
Well, he did
Borje
too, but
Salmi.
we go back to Borje. Borje was the first guy.
Yeah.
And Borje and Hammerstrand, when they came, I was on the ice with Borje. I mean, it was awful. It was absolutely. And he is the toughest man that I've ever.
That scar that he's got, people said that people were all the European players are wimpy and they're all fancy and they're all stick handling. He got back on the ice not too long after he had, 80 stitches or something ridiculous.
He was voted, we do a lot of old timers games, and he was with us, and he was voted the European athlete over 50.
Yeah.
He's a Laplander. His grandmother was a Laplander, and so that's the heritage. I mean, he's still skin and bones and a great athlete.
Yeah.
But it was a changing time. It was the Broad Street Bullies were the Americanization of the game. They wanted the violence.
Yeah.
We were used to the great hockey in the Montreal and the Toronto, and then Philly come in. They want fights, they want brawls, and so it's the evolution. But so I came through a lot of that.
Yeah. See, I try not to get into a lot of the hockey fights because I've never really been a fan who embraced that, right? But when you get a good shot of Shane Corson punching out Ty Domi, you can't help but applaud.
No.
Right?
Well, I say, we were at an Easter Seals function, and you were actually there, Kevin, as one of the players, and I
apologize.
I just have to say that I've seen a lot of good players and I've seen a lot of bad players, and I'm not going to put you in either category, but you were at the top of that list or the bottom. I'm not sure what it was, but you were number one of my all-time players.
When I slow down so much that you don't even call me offside because it's going to take too long for me to come back on side and get back.
But it was fun. But I mean, that's the sort of stuff we did with the charities. That you were involved in that, and that's what I love doing now. And people want to hear stories.
Yeah. I got a story I got to get from you, because this is one of my all-time favorite stories that you've ever told, and it's actually resemblant of the picture that we're looking at over your shoulder here, and it's the Gretzky picture where you wanted to be in the picture. Could you share that story with me, because I love that?
Sure. This is back in 1989, I believe it was, and Wayne Gretzky is about to break Gordie Howe's all-time points record. It's 1,800 points, and so we go into Edmonton, and Gretzky was with Los Angeles at the time. And at the game, Gordie Howe's there, Wayne's mom and dad, or his mom was living at the time. They're all there. It was a big to-do before the game, because this is a good chance for Wayne to break the all-time scoring record.
Yeah.
So we're on the ice the very first period, and I'm going up and down, and we're in the corner. I'm standing right beside Wayne. We're up at center ice, and I'm following him very closely. And then in the second period, we're kind of in the corner, and I'm right beside him. And finally, he used the F word. He said, "Hoagie, get that blank out of the way." I said, "No, Wayne, you're going to get the point, and I'm being the pitcher." And that's kind of like the pitcher. I'm standing right beside him with a big grin. So it's fun. Wayne did some stuff with the Toronto Dominion Bank, and we were at the country club here in Barrie, and I was a hot stove leading it. So I told that story, and he said, "Hoagie, I got to invite you to my training camp, or my fantasy camp." And,
that's a big deal.
It's $14,999 for 5 days with Wayne. So I said, "Where is it?" "It's at the Bellagio in Vegas."
There's some people from Barrie who've gone to that.
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few have gone. It's a great time. So it was a fantastic time. I loved it, but they want to hear stories.
Yeah.
And what I always like to do with the guys, with the guys paying that kind of money.
Yeah.
We were sitting having breakfast with one of the students who was and I said, "I know I've got stories for you, but what do you do?" And he says, "Well, kind of like a car dealer." They're from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
He says, "My family's had this business." I said, "Well, what is it?" "But we don't have cars, we have helicopters." And I says, "How many helicopters you got?" He says, "A couple hundred." I went, 200 helicopters. So that's the kind of guy, the tech guys.
Yeah.
But it was the same guys on the ice that day.
Yeah.
And, he gets the puck, and he was in front of the net. I thought maybe he was injured or something. He comes to the bench, he's very downtrodden. And I says, "Are you okay?" And you kind of try to look after the guy. He says, "No." He says, when I'm on the ice at home," he says, "I get that puck, I bury it." He says, "But Gretz gave it to me. I froze. I couldn't do anything." So it's so neat being on the ice, with an icon like that.
For sure.
And we're with 30 guys, so that's the great part, is you get back, but just to have fun, and the guys recognize you. So it was
seeing
fun.
You at some of these events too. I remember being at a golf tournament with you, and I remember there was this really funny relationship you had with a gentleman who came out and decided to help MC. I believe he had autism, and he had these zingers after zingers at you and everybody, Ala, Frady, Zach. Yeah. And he was the nicest guy, but he was so funny. Everybody was in stitches. But your ability to embrace it, take it on the chin, and just laugh. And I love that you love this community. And I think that is such a thing that helps, the city of Barrie embrace you. You've been through a lot. Everybody's got a tough story, right? There's always a tough time in people's lives. But you've always been able to embrace the city, and it loves you back.
Well, it's, with somebody like that, there was Easter Seals, and he was a Timmy at one time. When we had the two boys, actually one passed away, and people say, what I really like about you? These are little dwarfs, and when you're meeting these people, you don't stand there and talk to them. You get down with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean that's. My father and mother both had the same theory in life. You treat people the way you want to be treated. And and that's what you do. You give back and you treat them. The other thing my dad used to say, you think you got problems because you got no shoes to meet somebody who's got no feet. And that really stands out. That's try to live my life that way, because, here it is, the big, and Ron Hoggarth, big deal. But, as soon as you put that NHL jersey on, that's special. That
is.
really is special. I mean, every boy in Canada wanted to be in the NHL, and I was very fortunate to be there. So
Sure.
if I can give back to them, that's good.
It is a certain sacred thing in Canada to be able to put that jersey on. And, you know, it's like that old story of the, what was it, the Toronto Maple Leaf sweater and the Montreal sweater,
Yes,
remember?
Daryl Sittler, the Christmas story.
The Christmas story. So you've been able to be around and surrounded by some of the hockey greats, right? And they get to say that about you because you are, out at the end of the day, a hockey great. So what is it for you that you feel was your biggest accomplishment then as an NHL referee, or that is maybe even for Ron Hoggarth?
Well, unfortunately, I never worked a Stanley Cup final series. I worked
really?
I'm probably one of the most, I worked 150 NHL Stanley Cup games.
Wow.
But never worked the final. And that's always been a disappointment to me. But on the other hand, I was, out of 14 out of my 23 years, I was on the committee negotiating our contracts.
That's a big deal.
Well, you know, but the management didn't like me. You know, players did, and on the ice, you treat them. Humor is the best thing too. Lots of times, you just add a little humor. You settle things down.
Yeah.
But the accomplishment, I think, is a big thing. 23 years, I never missed a game.
Wow.
Injury, or I one time I even took a small plane from Calgary to Edmonton to get onto a plane, snowstorm, fog. I've been through all. The big accomplishment is the longevity, and now I think too. I look back at it. I can meet a Wendell Clark, I can meet a Daryl Sittler, and Dougie Gilmour. They're all friends. Guy Lafleur. They're all friends, of mine, and they treat me with respect. And even like Pat Quinn, we were at the Hall of Fame.
Tough as nails.
He used to yell and scream at me. And he says, "You know what, Hoagie? Since you've been retired, you're a pretty good referee now."
Pat Quinn.
That's Pat Quinn. So it's great that way. So
yeah. Now in that longevity, though, you've taken some wear and tear. Obviously, this is you look like a Grecian commercial, right? Like you look good, you look fit and happy and healthy.
For 70, it was not bad.
But see, you don't look 70, Ron. You never do. So with you have obviously been through some wear and tear on the body, though. What's it like for you, mentally? You just keep going, and physically, you must have experienced something.
Oh no, I got a new knee last year, and I'm only 2 weeks out of this one. I've got a new knee, so I've got two brand new knees.
Yeah.
The back aches. You get up in the morning. You think at 50 years old you got some pain. Well, then at 60 you got a lot more pain. At 70, wow. But you still are going. I sold my business. I had a business, a pool business. I sold that.
Yeah.
But then I took some time off. But I still want to do things. I'm a people person, so I want to be there. And so I've gone back into the commercial real estate and love it.
Yeah.
Just being part of it. So if you keep your mind, I know so many friends. I mean, I look in the used to be Examiner. We can't anymore. But the obituaries. People my age, retiring, they're gone.
Yeah.
So you keep yourself active, keep your mind busy. I think that's very important, and that's why I love to do the charity work. You get back in and
absolutely
keep yourself going.
So in commercial real estate, your sense of humor and your ability to be able to just be passionate about things and driven. It's not about Ron Hoggarth, because maybe some people in commercial real estate don't know Ron Hoggarth, but they do probably admire your passion and your sense of humor, because I think that offers that creativity. If somebody wants to build a business or launch a business, you can say, hey, look, I have a creative idea to help your business, why it would be successful here. How are you doing in commercial real estate?
Well, that's, as you say, a people person. It takes a long time. I've been at it now about 13 years, so it takes a long time. Way
different than residential.
I still am getting people say, "Are you the referee?" I can't believe that after all these years. And I said, "Yes, still." And the guy said, "I didn't like that call." So now my humor. The first thing I says, "You know what? I didn't care then. I don't care now." So you just you got that straight, and now we'll carry on. And it's that little bit of humor. It's, oh yeah.
Everybody's a replay sitting on the couch, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are you doing in your spare time then? You must, if you have any, you're very involved. So when you're not, running around, playing golf or charity stuff, what do you do for you?
Well, I like to travel.
Yeah.
I'm remarried now. I've been married, a substantial amount of time. So my wife and I, we have grandchildren. She's got grandchildren in the States. We visit them quite a bit.
Nice.
I'd like to do, this knees kind of stopped me up. Try to take a month in Florida with golf. We have traveled over the last few years. We're doing some of the state parks in the United States.
Yeah.
So we love to travel and, do it now while you can. So I give myself a lot of time to myself. And as I say, quality time. There's lots of time out there. I'm not a big television watcher.
Yeah.
my wife says the only thing on television I think is hockey and baseball. That's the only thing that's on there. But I'd love watching, the third period of the Maple Leafs game. I'm a big Maple Leaf fan now.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, big Maple Leaf fan now.
For now. You know what? If they win 5 games straight, everybody at the beginnning of the year, everybody wants to get on the bandwagon.
Well, I've got my tickets for the parade.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Everybody's ready for the parade. They're getting the balloons ready.
Yeah.
But so what? I don't even want to ask you what it's like being a Leaf fan because I can relate a little bit. So what's it like for you then watching hockey? When you see these games, how much do you miss it, or do you just kind of go, wow, you've had your time and you've enjoyed it?
You know what? The game has changed so much from when I was there. I mean, we used to put our whistles away lots of times in the third period. I mean, if we called a penalty in the later part of the third period, I was like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I still tell the story about the worst day of my life. Oh. I did, really and truly, and I made a big mistake. When I do a lot of talking to high schools and things like that if you make a mistake, admit it. And I didn't at the time. And this was 1994.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 1992. January 31 was Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, you remember it? Okay.
I remember this one big time. So I'm on the ice in Washington. We've got Pittsburgh at Washington. Mario Lemieux comes out on the ice, and he says, he says, Hoagie, put your whistle away. We got a party back in Pittsburgh. Put your whistle away. Perfect. So I put my whistle away. And we go out and they're hooking and they're holding and and now these things are starting to get carried away.
Yeah.
And carried away.
As they do.
I said to Mario, Mario, I'm sorry. He says, Scotty Bowman was the coach at the time. I says, I want you to go talk to Scotty because I got to pull this back. I'm sorry, you got a party and everything, but I've lost it here and it's not right.
Yeah.
And Mario says, Hoagie, not my job. Oh, perfect. So I turned to Paul Coffey, who was a defenseman.
Another
great guy.
Yeah.
And I said, Coffey, I explained the situation. He says, I'd love to, Hoagie. He says, but I'm in a contract dispute and I haven't talked to that jerk in 3 months. So finally it was one of the defensemen, and he did go, but I mean it was still bad. Anyways, the third period, again, Mario Lemieux was going in, and I've got the tape of YouTube. I mean, talk about the all-time mistake. Mario Lemieux gets pulled down, and the steer wrestling in the Calgary Stampede was not as bad as what.
Oh wow!
As he gets pulled down, and I don't call it. Of course, Washington pick up the puck down the ice and score. So now we're in. So I'm standing in the corner. Yermer Yager, this was his very first year, comes in,
incredible,
takes my feet and flips me right in the air, and I'm in the corner like this. So this is when he gets 10 games. And
he should.
Which he should, but I mean, I'm a mistake. I made the mistake, it grows. So anyways, Anne, the wife at the time, we were in Florida, and I pick up the paper, and Mario calls it a garage league. He says that Hoggarth's too fat, he's too slow. And I'm getting now threats at home, calls. So I made a big time mistake. And anyways, it's 3 weeks later, I'm in Los Angeles, and I've got Wayne Gretzky. This is a face-off. Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux standing here, and Wayne.
And they were great friends.
Oh, great friends. Mario says, "So Hoagie, Mario and you kissed and made up?" I says, I made a mistake. I was wrong. So I admitted. And Mario says, "Yes, Hoagie." He says, "You made a mistake." He says, I shouldn't have called it a garage league. I made a mistake. He says, "But you are fat and you are too slow." That was funny. Anyway, so Wayne kind of picks us up. We're standing there. People wonder what the heck's going on. And Wayne says, what the great part about this, here we are in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And between the three of us, we're making a little over $12 million. I went, yeah. So Wayne says, yeah, I'm making 8. Mario's making 4, and you're the little bit over, right, Hoagie? So it just kind of calmed things down. But you know what? It was a mistake, and I tell the kids now, when it's okay if you make a mistake, admit it.
Yeah.
And I never did it at the time, and I got myself in a whole lot of trouble over that.
What an incredible time to be able to talk about it, though, in front of the two probably of the greatest of the greats.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So you've got these experiences. How does it feel after you've been on the ice with some of these guys? Do you meet with them after? Do you ever meet them for drinks? Do you ever run into them? Or what's it like? Or do you have to segregate yourself away from that?
It's very different. Very different today than it was in my time. Very different from the times before.
Sure.
When the travels, back in the 50s and 60s, the teams would travel by train. And you got Montreal and Toronto on the same train. They never even went to the bar car. They hated each other.
Yeah.
With us, it was a different story. There was bars after the game. There was hockey bars. We would go there, and you would talk to the players.
Yeah.
You would talk to some of the players in the I guess in the hotels, because you stayed in the same hotels. Lots of times at that time they weren't chartering, so they would be on the same plane together. I remember one time, Pittsburgh to Buffalo, I'm sitting, just here. There's Mario Lemieux, Ulf Samuelsson, Jaromir Jagr, and Kevin Stevens, and they're playing poker. I mean, and the Bills are sitting on the high, so you could talk to these guys. Now it's a different story. They all charter, so it's different. But you could talk to them. But interesting story. I'll go back to the Barrie Summer Hockey School. Terry Martin was a Barrie boy, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this was hockey night in Canada, and Terry's very shy. He's just a very calm guy. Anyways, he could skate like the wind. He's going in on net, and he gets pulled down. So it's a penalty shot. Yeah. And I go to center ice, and Terry goes in, takes the puck, and slaps it right because he was nervous. Slaps it right into the goaltender's pads. And he skates by me. He says, "Hoagie, don't ever call anything like that on me again." He says. And then the guys are Toronto going, "Hey, I thought you guys were partners in the summer." I says, "Yes, in the partners, friends." I says, "But see this line here, the boards? That's where it ends. This is the professional starts." So they all understood that.
Of course. And there's a certain zen when you do get onto that ice. It's a whole different spiritual place for you. So, and this might be kind of personal, but what's it like for family, for you, married now, what's that struggle, and you probably can relate it with other hockey players as well as yourself. What's it like, that struggle, being on the road that long? It's got to be difficult at home. That's the tough part.
It's very difficult. I was married first time for 32 years, and I give my wife, first wife, credit. She basically raised the kids. Yeah. And I'll tell a story too. I remember Stacy, you went to school with. She was playing basketball, and I was away a lot. In my first year, my very first road trip was 28 days away. I was home for 2 and gone for 22.
Wow.
It got better near the end. We were only gone but basically you're not home for a lot of things. You miss a lot of things. And I remember being at one of Stacy's basketball games, and Dr. Quadri, a local doctor, and his daughter, and they both were playing on the basketball team. And his daughter came over and she says, "Oh, Mr. Hoggarth, this is so great to see you at the games. I've been at one game." So, but Stacy saw that, and it was the times that you have to really, compound on, I guess, what it is. But it's very difficult traveling, and, I understood that, and that's one of the reasons we're not married now.
Well, I can tell that would pull on the heartstrings and on the emotions and on those family binds.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So when you do get downtime, what's your downtime when you're not refereeing? What is it you're doing the most of? Other than traveling?
Well, training, and the other thing too is when you get home, you might have been home for 4 or 5 days. Basically, you didn't do a whole lot. In those days, you got to pay bills, you got to do the stuff that when you're not at home. Yeah. And really, you try and keep yourself down a little bit, and try to spend a little bit of time with the family if you can. But you don't get a whole lot. It's not as bad. The traveling's not as bad as it was before. But going through the airports today isn't impossible. Yeah. We used to take our skates on board, and
maybe can't have bottled water now.
A duty-free bottle of booze, or all those fun things. And now you can't take water on. So it's changed a whole lot.
Yeah. So if you were to give me one message, because we're getting towards the end of the show, and I know we could have a whole bunch of episodes of this, but what is your one message you'd like to relay out to everybody who's watching right now?
Well, I think that to treat people the way you want to be treated. Yeah. And I think that's so important. That's important for the young children. That's important for teenagers. That's important for parents. That's important for grandparents. If you're a student or a young person, or if you're a parent, whatever you are, if you're a jerk, you're going to get treated like a jerk. If you're good and nice, you're going to be treated nice. And I really and truly believe that I was successful for 23 years on the ice, treating the people good, and they treated me good back, and it's always been afterwards as great as well.
So what would be one thing then maybe that you would want to have everybody remember you for the most?
Well, my good looks, my skating.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah. No, I think I would like people to remember me as a good person. I was very fortunate. As I say, in my time, there was 10 referees in the National Hockey League, and I was one of them. Yeah. Now it's expanded as a whole lot more. So I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. Yeah. I had a great job. I was on the ice with Wayne Gretzky. I was in the Chicago Stadium. I was in Maple Leaf Gardens, Montreal Forum. Yeah. So it was an unbelievable experience. And So that's, but you know, being that, I still want people to remember me as a good person. You know,
and I think that's what people do in the city of Barrie.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today, Ron. It flew by, and I look forward to talking more with you after the camera's gone. So thank you for your time, Ron.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
all the
you.
very best to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.